going forward. I have some ideas on it we could talk about. Right, next up we have Mark Cooper of AM6. He is a Chief Commercial Officer. Did I get that right? Yep. And currently responsible for management and development of AM6 marketing, sales, business development, and customer service. And he's going to present to us this morning on the peering ecosystem. So let's hand over to Mark. Let's welcome him.
Thanks, Bobo. So, good morning, everyone. So, my marketing manager is making me stand up on stage so I think you can see me better. I'm too small. So, yesterday on the agenda, I was actually the CTO until Henk saw that, and then he was very upset to think that I was going to steal his job from him. My name is Mark Cooper. I work for AM6, based in Amsterdam. I'm English. It's my first time here in Curaçao. Fantastic place, great people. And it was actually Nico who persuaded me to come here and present today. So I'm going to talk about kind of our opinion, but also my kind of personal opinion and views of what we see going on internationally, kind of around peering and IXPs. It's really interesting to be sandwiched between Google and Akamai because they form such a large part of the overall peering infrastructure globally now. So kind of going back in time. So AM6 was founded back in 1994. First time the word AM6 was ever used was in an email. So we've been around for a long time. Back in 2014 was our 20th anniversary, so we're 22 now. We can legally drink, even in America. And let's have a look at the internet back in 1994. So you look back then. Yahoo ruled. They were the top search engine. Google wouldn't even exist for another 4 years. Nokia was the king of mobile phones. Everyone remembers the 3210, the phone that would not die, and you can probably still use one now. Mainframe, still heavily in use. You know, IBM ruled the world. If anyone remembers digital faxes and VMS as well, that was the first boxes I worked on. But interesting, Microsoft Windows was already 10 years old, even back in 1994. So we've been suffering with it for that long already. And kind of clouds are in the sky. No one's talking about clouds unless they were looking up. Clouds are still clouds. Yeah. And it's cloudy here, Nico. I wasn't expecting that. So let's jump forward to now, 2016. So if we look at AM6, our platform in Amsterdam, we've got over 790 networks connected to the platform. I think back in 1994, no one could have imagined having that many networks connected in one place. And the traffic on the exchange in Amsterdam is 4.7 terabits a peak. I'll come on to when you see those peaks, but it's a lot of traffic. And I have to give a lot of kudos to Henk and his engineering team on being able to cope and continually engineer and expand the platform to cope with that level of traffic. So if you look at the internet in 2016, Google rules. Yahoo is still around. Actually, there's no one from Yahoo, otherwise they'd be wearing purple. And streaming video just dominates everything. Everyone talks about Netflix, HBO. And I don't know if anyone remembers going to Blockbuster or Video Land to actually rent a VHS tape or a DVD. But it's disappeared. It's gone. It's amazing. Cloud everywhere. Microsoft Azure, AWS, Oracle, Salesforce. Smartphones are everywhere. You know, Apple and Samsung dominate. Can you imagine back in 1994 if someone said, yeah, you're going to have this phone and it's going to be from Apple? And Nokia, I know they do still exist. Sometimes they're called Nokia, sometimes they're called Microsoft. But again, who could have imagined that a giant like Nokia could just kind of disappear from the market? So if we talk about cloud, I mean, cloud is everywhere. Everyone is using cloud for everything. And even in the kind of the internet exchange and connectivity business, what we see now is you see developments around cloud exchanges. So where people are actually building platforms to interconnect to a cloud platform such as Microsoft or Amazon. If you take the example of Netflix, I think they run the majority of their infrastructure on Amazon. Obviously, they have their own CDN network as well. But the compute is actually done on Amazon, which is very, very interesting, I think. And IXPs are absolutely everywhere. I mean, if you look at this map, I think like in every country in the world, there's probably an IXP now. Go back to 1994, there were tens of IXPs. Now there are literally hundreds. I think every week there's a new IXP popping up somewhere in the world. And it's nice to see that happening in the Caribbean as well. There are a lot of these initiatives to get IXPs off the ground and up and running. And I hope you can take a lot of inspiration from what we've been able to do here on Curacao. And we'd love to see that kind of spread across the rest of the region as well. But I have a question. How many of you actually belong and peer at an IXP? If we can have a show of hands, please. So a question of how many of you actually belong and peer on an IXP, an internet exchange somewhere? Okay. Then I knew I would need this slide. I'm very, very disappointed. I thought I would see many, many more hands where you're like, yep, we all believe in IXPs, we support them, we peer on them. So I'd like, at the next CarPIF, someone to ask the same question and see a lot more hands come up. Because IXPs, we're a really important part of the overall infrastructure. We do a lot of good work. We preach the idea of peering. We work very closely with people like Google, with Akamai, Facebook. We want to try and make things work better. So, very, very short marketing spiel about AMSIX. So, we started in Amsterdam, like I said, back in 1994. And we decided that with our experience, it was actually good to expand internationally. First international expansion was actually to Curacao. Second was to Hong Kong. And then our most recent adventure has been into the US. So we're in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco. It's interesting. So you think you understand the internet exchange business. We've been doing it for a long time. But every market we go to is different. Every market, there are different issues. Take Curacao, for example. In the beginning, there was only one data center. Normally, with our IXP model, we want to be present in multiple data centers because that extends the reach. You can get more customers connected to the platform. Hong Kong, very, very interesting. Obviously, you have the cultural challenges, the kind of the Chinese way of doing business, where you build the relationships first and then the business comes later. The US, I wouldn't know where to begin with the US, but a couple of classic stories would be coming across that things are still unionized. You want to run a cable in some of those buildings, you need someone who belongs to the union to do it. And actually, one of the best stories we had when we were building out in New Jersey, it was in a kind of a wholesale data center, had these very, very high racks, kind of the super high ones. And our engineer needed a ladder to finish the installation. Could he borrow a ladder from the data center? No, because that would breach insurance rules. So he's there on a Sunday afternoon in New Jersey, in the middle of nowhere, driving around trying to buy a ladder. And there's now a ladder in that data center that says property of AMSIX. So that's something that we kind of learn everywhere we go. We just learn from the experiences. It's a lot of fun as well. If we look at our traffic, kind of go back to the 2004, tiny amount of traffic. And just year on year it's growing. I think we see around 30% growth year on year in terms of the volume of traffic over the exchange. One of the trends that's really picked up in the last 2 years is the migration from 10 gig to 100 gigs. Especially the larger content parties, like an Akamai or a Google. Traditionally, they would have a lot of 10 gig lags. They're now moving over to the 100 gigs. But we're also seeing it filter down as well. Obviously, the price of the 100 gig optics is dropping. So people are actually kind of ready now to make the move from 4x10, 5x10 to the 100 gig ports. Yeah, I mean, I think kind of Akamai and Facebook, they're our biggest customers in terms of how many 100 gig ports you have with us. And it's a constant challenge. How do you cope with terabits of traffic? So Henk's team are constantly looking at what can we do to kind of increase the port density, find more efficient ways to interconnect the data centers. So what is driving all this traffic growth? Something is causing this traffic to continually grow all the time. And I have a few examples. which I think are interesting. So, firstly, cats. Pictures of cats on the internet just drive traffic everywhere. Everyone must know angry cat, or not. But kind of seriously, if you look back to 2007, there were thousands of ASNs on the internet. And those thousands probably accounted for 50% of the internet traffic. If you look today in 2016, 10 networks generate 70% of all consumer traffic, which is amazing. So that shows that either these networks have something that is very, very interesting, or there's been a lot of consolidation in the industry as well. These stats actually come from a company called Deepfield. You should go look at what they do. And now some examples. So what is this traffic? Twitch. Anyone know what Twitch is? It's amazing. So it's a company, and their whole business model is streaming video of people playing video games. So you can imagine there's someone at home playing a video game, and they have a webcam, so they'll send a stream of themselves playing the game, a stream of them kind of talking over it. It's amazing. So it's a company started out as called Justin TV, and his idea was to have this video camera strapped to himself, walking around filming everything. And then it kind of grew into this huge business. They were acquired by Amazon a couple of years ago for a few $1 billion. But that's an amazing business model, that people will actually pay to watch a video stream of someone playing a game. It's the internet's a crazy place. And one of those games is League of Legends. League of Legends is this incredible game. It's played by millions and millions of people worldwide. And this is a photo from one of their tournaments. They actually have $1 million tournaments where people compete and play this game. You have sponsored esports teams. So kind of on the one side you have video, which is driving a lot of traffic. Gaming doesn't really drive a lot of traffic, but it's very, very latency sensitive. So the gaming companies are very, very focused on, okay, my guy at home, I don't want him to have his lag and he's throwing his controller across the room in a fit of rage. So the gaming companies are very focused on latency, shortest connectivity. So for them, peering is a very important thing as well. Netflix, everyone knows Netflix, stream huge amounts of traffic. When we talk about the peaks of traffic that we see, the biggest peak we see is always on a Sunday night. Everyone's at home, nothing else to do, sitting watching Netflix. Game of Thrones. That's another thing. Everyone's kind of waiting for Game of Thrones to come out, and then they just kind of binge watch it, and you see these huge peaks. The Walking Dead. But I think it's amazing that, we used to go and rent these videos, had to wait for it to come out, and now you can just consume it whenever you want. And then what do we see in terms of customer requirements? Obviously, we talk to a lot of companies. We have every kind of internet company you can think of as a customer. So what do customers actually find important? Customers can be very, very demanding. So some of the observations we see. Traffic. Is traffic an important thing for joining an exchange? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The number of participants on an exchange. That's a very, very important thing. Obviously, the more participants you have on an exchange, the more interesting it becomes to connect. Pricing, pricing is an important factor, especially for the larger parties. Reliability, you want to have a platform that's stable, well-engineered. Online self-service, this is something that AMSIX has been very, very focused on. So giving the customers the ability to do as much as they can through the customer portal. Not having to phone up an engineer, not having one of our engineers actually logging onto the box. We try and do as much as we can through scripting. Cool t-shirts. Everyone likes t-shirts. Stickers. We had some stickers outside as well. And most awards. No one cares if you win awards for running an internet exchange. But then seriously, what really matters to the customers is kind of how many routes can they pick up on the exchange. So the more, the better. Self-service, move, add some changes. That's something we're kind of continuously working on, giving the customers more and more ability to do things through the portal. Pricing, kind of keep the pricing consistent and follow the market. and people. People really matter. I have to give so much credit to Nico, to Job, to Henk for all the work they've done in building AMSIX, both as a platform, but also the reputation of the company as well. And that was it. Thank you. You rock. Any questions? I tried to keep it a bit light-hearted because I know it's day 2 and it's kind of a bit of a dip.
What are those top 10 content movers on the
The top 10 parties? Yeah, Netflix, Akamai, Google. Twitch is a huge one. I think Twitch is now number 4. Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, kind of all the usual suspects you can think of.
What was the site you found that those statistics?
So it's a company called Deepfield, and they do a lot of research around kind of traffic profiles. I can send you a link. There's a presentation that was given at the Global Peering Forum where we went into a lot more details about kind of the traffic profiles, how things have changed over the last decade.
I've been asking questions for our remote hub, but my name is Angelo Leidens. I represent Starview. I'm also here with my colleague representing the local SME association. My question is, in particular for the SME associations, what is the traffic that goes through our local IXP?
So the IXP here on Curacao?
Yes, in particular, what type of Facebook, Twitch? My nephew plays Twitch, so.
Yeah, I think you've hit all the classics there. Google, Akamai. So it was actually interesting. We were sitting in a cigar bar by the hotel last night. No, not last night, the night before, and they were playing Netflix. And even though Netflix isn't currently present on the islands, the streaming was perfect. It wasn't the 4K version, but yeah, there was no hitches, no glitches. Yeah, kind of any normal traffic you can think of. And I think Twitch is just such a great example because it came from nowhere. And then you have all these guys in their bedrooms streaming themselves, kind of making money from it as well.
The question, what was behind AMSIX's expansion initiative, and what happens now in terms of countries, territories, regions that want to partner / work with AMSIX?
Yes, an interesting one. I think the drive was, we thought we're good at running internet exchanges. We're good from a technology perspective. We have a lot of contacts in the industry as well. And we thought we could make the internet work better. So we saw demand from Curacao in the first instance, Hong Kong as well. So we kind of looked at markets where we thought the kind of classical independent IXP model didn't exist. So that's kind of the approach we took. But it's interesting. We literally get a company or a city or a country every week coming. We want to have an internet exchange. What we see a lot of times, though, is most people that come, they don't actually really understand what an internet exchange is, what's the real benefit for them. They've had a consultant come in and go, yeah, you need an internet exchange. But for an internet exchange to work, you need the right kind of market environment. So typically you want to have something that's deregulated. You want to have good broadband penetration. You want to have good kind of data center infrastructure available. Kind of with those factors, then an IXP can be interesting. What you don't want is an IXP in a country that's regulated. There's not much competition, because then it's very difficult for an IXP to succeed. An IXP succeeds by being large. The more you get on, the more valuable the exchange becomes to all of the participants.
Interesting. I see that you go to, from what I've seen, cities that have a traditional trade hub function. Is that everywhere applicable?
I guess that's probably a coincidence. I think if you look in Amsterdam, I mean, Amsterdam's been a trading hub forever. That's one of the things the Dutch are very, very well known for. But it's also where the cable systems come. Think back to the 1800s. A lot of those cable systems, they'll have run from New York to London, or from London to Hong Kong. And it was interesting yesterday, so we had the tour on the cable ship yesterday, and I was talking to one of the guys where there's a volcano in the Pacific called Jenny, and it erupted a couple of years ago. And what it does, it causes a landslide that kind of pushes the cable aside. So they're trying to find the cable, and they've actually pulled up a telegraph cable from the 1800s. So they're looking for this fiber optic cable and pull up this old copper cable. So it's amazing, it was in perfect condition. But what it shows is that the cables now still follow the routes that the telegraph cables did back in the 1800s. So,
Any other questions? Any other questions for Mark?
yo,
Owen?
Akamai. You're up next, Owen.
Actually, this is more of a comment than a question. Owen DeLong, Akamai. I think that it's not a coincidence. I think that the roots of human communication have been established by those old trading routes, and then those communication routes have persisted, and so the cables have followed the roots of human communication that were established by those trading routes, and it's just continued to expand along the same routes because once humans find something that works, they're like ants. They keep following the same path.
Yeah, kind of the path of least resistance as well.
So you can predict your next client.
Who? Do we have an NDA? But yeah, if you have any questions for me, come find me. Happy to talk to everyone.
Hey, thank you,
Thanks a
Mark.
lot.